I would like to introduce to you a sharer. A sharer who has experienced pain and suffering, but has become victorious. A sharer from New York, Sister Genevieve Castillo.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I am Genevieve Castillo. I am a wife. I am a mother of 2 kids. My son is 5 years old and my daughter is 4. I'm a daughter. My parents are actually here today as well. I am also a registered nurse, and my husband and I became a member of the Couples for Christ community in 2000. All my entire life, I have always felt the presence of God. I'm a type A personality, so I always plan and put timeline in my plans. I set objectives of myself, I set goals, and try to envision when I want to do those things and achieve those things. I feel that God is always at my side. Everything that I wanted for in life, I was able to achieve. Educationally, professionally, I love what I do. I love my job. I have 2 brilliant kids after 9 years of trying to have children. God gave it to us at the right time. God gave us also an abundant life. Resources. I have very supportive family and as well as friends. And of course, the Couples for Christ community. Life is not perfect as what they say. But to me, it was perfect. Life is perfect back then. Not until the day of June 3, 2009, a year ago, that at 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up with severe pain on my neck. Pain that I thought I was having a heart attack. I was having shortness of breath, and the pain spread to my shoulders. So I woke my husband up, and I told him, I'm in severe pain, I cannot breathe. So all he said was, call 911. So we called 911, and because I have a stressful job as well, I really thought I was having a mild heart attack probably. So when we got to the emergency room, they said, oh, you're a nurse, you probably have an anxiety attack. Because they said nurses are always anxious. But then, I continued to have shortness of breath and pain that even with all the medications that they gave me, it wouldn't be relieved. Within a matter of 2 to 3 hours, I became totally paralyzed. From my neck all the way down to my toes. I wasn't able to control my bowel and bladder, so I was totally incontinent of bowel and bladder while I was still in the emergency room. Still at that time, they thought that, she's anxious, let's send her home. Maybe she's just really having an anxiety attack. They did all the tests, everything came back normal. But deep inside, I know something was wrong. I was begging the doctors not to send me home because they told me you can go home, just, take Valium. And I said, no, please, do not send me home. I wasn't really feeling well. By then, I was already out of breath, and they were not even willing to give me oxygen because my vital signs or my breathing pattern was actually normal. To make the long story short, I woke up the following day intubated. I was in ICU, and the first person I saw when I opened my eyes was my husband with his rosary beads praying right next to me. And I was looking at my right side and I saw the respirator. And I was intubated. I was so scared. And for those of you who are nurses here, you know what it means to be ventilated. There is another machine who is trying to breathe for you. So my lungs were no longer working. I was so scared. I didn't know what was going on. I cannot feel my toes. I cannot feel my legs. I cannot move my fingers. I can only move my head. The doctors were so puzzled because all of the tests that actually came back were negative. They didn't know what was going on until they got the MRI result and they found out that I was having transverse myelitis. Have any one of you heard what is transverse myelitis? I never heard it in my entire nursing career. And transverse myelitis is the swelling of the spine. And unfortunately, my spine was swollen all the way from C2. The highest level of our spinal cord is C1. So the spine, the level that it was swollen was actually C2. That's why I was paralyzed from my neck down. There is no treatment. Only time can tell whether I will be better or not. Transverse myelitis only happens 1 in 3 million cases per year. I could have won the lotto if it was the other way around. But it was the other way. I have decided and my family to move to a bigger hospital, which is Columbia Presbyterian in Manhattan. And I stayed there for 30 days. The doctors decided that because I really did not progress for 1 week, they have to put a tracheostomy on my neck. So I actually have a scar and a hole on my neck. They also have at the same time, to maintain my nutrition, put a gastrostomy tube in order for me to sustain my health. At the same time, they also did a lot of blood transfusions because I was losing blood. At the same time, they did 7 series of plasmapheresis. It's like a hemodialysis procedure in which they clean my blood just in case the swelling of my spine was from an infection. At the same time, they did an angiogram, just in case I had a blood clot that caused the swelling of my spine. They took a spinal fluid and they sent it to Mayo Clinic and all other clinics to see if I had infections, but they cannot find anything. All results came back negative. At that time, I was still paralyzed. I cannot move, I cannot talk, I cannot eat. And all I had at that time was my family and of course my friends. And it was very difficult because I was alert and I know what was going on. I know what was happening and I know what could happen to me. Then I started looking back at my life and said, Lord, what have I done wrong? I think I'm a good Christian. I'm a good wife. I'm a good mother. I'm a good daughter. I'm a good co-worker. What have I done wrong? Why me? Why me? And it's not even like giving me 2 weeks to prepare. So at least I could tell my husband what to do with the kids. and prepare everything. It just happened in a matter of seconds. And I started saying, Lord, you have abandoned me. You betrayed me, Lord. I have been so faithful to you in my entire life, but this is what you gave me. Once again, I reassured myself and I said to myself, all my life, I know God has been with me. And I know one day I will come out from this. The doctors did tell me that because of the level of the swelling of my spine, my prognosis was very poor. That it will probably take 2 years for me to even start moving any of my limbs. So when I became medically stable, they moved me to an acute rehab center on July 2, 2009. And there I stayed for 3.5 months. 3.5 months seemed to be 30 years for me. To be away from my family, away from my kids, away from everything that I had. But then, I started to acknowledge the presence of God. And I said, Lord, I will take this suffering as long as you keep my family members away from any suffering. Looking at my kids, my husband, my parents, I said to myself, I would rather have the suffering than seeing one of them go through any suffering. Every day was a new day. They started to teach me how to walk again. I walked 2 steps, 5 steps, 10 steps, 100 steps. And it was like training a baby to walk. I was in so much pain. They taught me how to talk again. I had a speech therapist because for 4.5 months I wasn't able to talk, so you apparently forget how to talk. So they taught me how to talk. They taught me how to use the bathroom. They taught me how to eat. And slowly my breathing started to come back. Every day was a miracle. And the doctors cannot explain how I have progressed every day. I did not receive any medication to recover from illness. They only gave me prednisone, which is an anti-inflammatory that will stop the swelling of the spine. But I did not get any medications in order for me to recover. Every day I question God as I sit and lay down on my bed at night, away from my family. I question Him every night saying, what is it in store for me, Lord? What do you want from my life? I had a happy life. You took it away from me. But then again, every day, I've read the Bible just to get answers to my questions. And it leads me to the right answers. I never had one day that I thought that I will not recover. I said to myself, one day, I will prove to everybody that I will get up again to prove God's presence in my life. And one day, I will just look back and say, this time of the year I was in bed, and here I am now, playing with my kids. On October 7, the rehab hospital sent me home. They decided to send me home because I was already able to walk 100 steps and able to do few things on my own. However, my diaphragm was still not fully working. So I have to go home with a ventilator, with my trach. I had a choice of going home or going to a subacute nursing home. And of course, my family and I decided to go home.